he got laid off.
That's so gross.
We'll get him when he comes out of that house. Goddamn hippies.
Killing those helpless little bunnies? Why'd I have to show that?
Torture? Torture's reasonable. Killing? It's too much.
It's in no way a fiction. I saw what I said I saw.
Look, how do you know they didn't just hit him? That it wasn't just a mugging. I mean, it was 50 feet away, it was night.
Okay, no bullshitting. I think I witnessed a murder.
The cop's name is Pat Hitch. Apparently she has a friend that lives very near the stage of our little hit.
If this thing was mafia or government, I'd rather you have nothing to do with it at all. But whatever this thing was, it happened to you. And it happened for a reason.
Rabbits hide and run away, or rabbits have, you know, that skittish kind of also image of, you know, they thump when they sense danger and then run into a rabbit hole. And then the wolves are what? They're aggressors and hunters and stuff. So I think the title means, or is, you know, reminiscent, expressing the idea of like the hunter and the hunted.
The bad guys are supposed to be the good guys. They're the government agents keeping the world safe.
In this case, the wolves being this large behemoth government agency, trying to just do some little deed on the side that isn't going to get noticed because the two guys are, you know, typical government fare, kind of lazy about what they're doing, not really being careful. And as wolves, they're just going in, sweeping up on the prey and ready to move into the next thing, but then something gets in the way and it's a rabbit.
Having, you know, seen this event, Marie then becomes the rabbit, you know, and she is just running from either people who don't believe her, like Pat at first. I mean, you know, my character at first really doesn't believe her. You know, all the people who she's trying to get help from, trying to get away from, trying to get to believe her, they really become sort of a, you know, almost a very predatory faction.
Fools, you have no perception. The stakes we are gambling are frighteningly high. We must crush him completely, so like John before him, this Jesus must die. For the sake of the nation, this Jesus must die. Must die, must die, this Jesus must die.
And so I think John went with that an image of, oh, okay, I have an idea for someone who's a researcher and maybe really caught up in a bit of the research and sort of detached from maybe the reality. And then I remember one of the first times we hung out before he ever even knew Gil, because I actually got together with John and Jody one night. I remember Gil was out of town, like when we first became friends. And I mentioned, it came up out of nowhere, and I realized I was being spied on at the time. And I was like, oh, you didn't know Gil did theater? I'm like, he's a really great actor, and he's done all this professional theater, and he's a trained, you know, he was trained in theater. And I remember I didn't realize what I was saying, and I found out later John in the back of his mind was like, oh, really? I mean, he already had this idea, and it all fell into place.
Like, playing the bad guy is a lot of fun, and definitely memorable, I think, for the audience. Basically creating a couple of different backstories on Doxion. Just for me. I mean, not for anybody else. I don't think I ever wrote any of them down. I think maybe once I did. But just trying to give me some kind of foundation, because, you know, in real life I'm not a psychopath, and life's been pretty good to me, and so, you know, I'm not really into killing people.
That when I worked with Gil, because we often shot on different days, so the very first day we actually would have had that time to like be together, you know, and you imagine people running lines or sitting around helping each other out. He was a nightmare. He was like the hardest person in the world to work with. He was mean to everyone. Everyone agreed, like, and I'm not even saying this, like, I mean, I was like, what was that? You know, and I'm like picturing that's going to be really romantic and we're going to be all like bonded. He wouldn't even like talk to me. He was being really short and crabby and like, oh my God, I was like, this isn't fun at all. And I remember it was all some method acting or some shit, because it was like his character's supposed to be incredibly agitated in the scene he was doing. I was wanting to hang out and be all cute, and he wouldn't even like go near me. He was being a total brat.
That I was in bad mood that day. I think I was kind of a pain in the ass on this movie. I don't remember. Well, no, I do remember why. I think Jack and I were going through the stress of being, you know, pretty much right before our wedding, and so we had a lot of things. We had a lot of irons in the fire.
I was getting married the following Saturday. So I was in a lot of ways kind of really excited to get the movie wrapped up, because I had like 1 week then to like absolutely get ready and get my nails done and get myself in order and make programs and, you know, get married. And that was a lot in my mind. And I just was cracking up, and I had a lot of beautiful, like, funny thoughts about my relationship with Gil and my friends and my life, because the Saturday night before I got married, I had the opportunity to be in a scary, terrifying basement, and I just was cracking up, because I thought, like, how many girls, you know what I mean? I was like thinking of all those girls getting married as I read my bridal magazines. I'm like, what are they doing the Saturday night before their wedding?
This will come as no surprise to anybody who knows John, but the night we met him was a total whirlwind. I barely remember it, because you had a bunch of crazy people over at your place, and it was loud and drinking, and John, so loud and drinking. On that night, not to imply that John is drinking all the time, but, you know, he was in a celebratory mood, and it was just like, kerblam! That explosion that is John Madden.
I met John working at Theater Rhinoceros. I was putting in some time there as a production manager and technical director. And John was doing some telemarketing.
He has a very commanding presence. He's... Actually, you know what? He always came in wearing his bowler. And he was, you know, tall and loud, and, you know, you can't ignore John. Or it takes a lot of work to ignore John.
I met John through Jody. We were doing, Jody and I did Streetcar Named Desire. And we were both boys. And we got to get drunk and play cards together, play poker. And so that was tons of fun. And so John did the set for that and did crazy stuff, like put scent in everything. He had this concoction of Cajun crap.
You did this whole smell-o-rama thing about New Orleans. It was like tobacco and beer and whiskey, and was it a gardenia and fricka fracka pepper Cajun sweat.
I remember hearing some guy in the media services department bellowing about something political. And I mean bellowing. He has that wonderful voice where he just, you know, he gets all effusive about a particular topic. And I thought, that guy thinks like I do.
When he came to me with the movie, I didn't hesitate. I trusted him and had faith, and yeah, I'm happy. We did well. We are gods.
Because it was a great idea. And I was really looking forward to actually creating something with him.
I realized, I jumped right in, I said all these things like, yes, count me in, and then I realized, Dana, you have no idea what he's shooting. Is it a porno flick? Like, what are we talking about here?
But he talked about his evil master plan first, about the world and how he saw it, and about how he was going to use film to meet certain goals in his life and his aspirations and then he said that he wanted to, you know, make this movie, and he said he was going to, you know, write something down in the future, and I don't think he had even gotten the camera yet. And then I was like, okay, cool, you know, well, we always kick around ideas, you know, and some of them are more detailed, and they never get further than a detailed conversation. But in a few months, he had gotten the camera, and then in a few months, I got a script, and I was like, right on, John Madden.
And I remember reading through it saying, of course this is going to be something awesome. You know, I should have known. It's political thinking, it's forward thinking, it's interesting, and that's when I thought to myself, yay, like I didn't really have to worry.
It would be a fun project to make, and I could do a lot with the story. It's a time-tested genre. It's telling a rather simple story, and we're trying to tell it really well and bring in all these influences and make all this stuff happen and like make it a worthy expenditure of our time. My time, their time, Everybody's time. And if you're going to give me your time, I'm going to try my damnedest to feed you and take care of you and do everything I can possibly do for you because I owe you everything.
Amazing food. Lovely, lovely shots of whiskey. Too many nights having fun at your house where I slept over. The budget. Budgets are funny things. I mean, what in life? Okay, you can go off and you can do a movie and you can make your $325 a day, $225 a day, $175 a day, whatever it is that a production mixer, boom operator, whatever people make in LA. And I can just imagine going off and feeling like you're going off to another day at work and just dealing with the LA people and all that kind of stuff it would take to make a movie down there. And what a horrible life that would be, to be perfectly honest. It would really not feel as good. Now, I'm not saying that as a blanket statement. There's, I'm sure, some cool stuff down there, but in terms of this movie, having the love and friendship amongst new people and some people I already knew, and the ability to like go and be a part of a creative process and then get to eat together and drink and have fun together, that was the budget. The budget was love, and that worked for me.
I just seriously, like, good food for sure is a crucial. I like good food. Hitchcock loved good food. Hitchcock picked locations based on the kind of food he could eat. I'm not even kidding. I'm serious. Apparently, when he pitched Hume Cronin for Shadow of a Doubt, here's another Shadow of a Doubt influence, he said, we're going to shoot in a location in Northern California, and when the day's shoot is done, we're going to go out into the vineyards, and we're going to grab the grapes, and we're going to squish them into our mouths, and the juice will run down our face. I mean, that's like, there's a typical meeting with Hitch. He talks for 2 minutes about the project and 25 minutes about food or wine or something.
I had been going to Travis, getting commissary a lot back then. So every couple of weeks, I'd always have a pack of steaks.
Here's a movie we're making about a government entity, you know, being this, and yet we were eating government steaks when you think about it, and how great that is. I love that. Because the government has good steaks. What can you say? The government gets the good stuff.
Yes.
And then there was the adobo night, which was the kill night.
The food was great!
The nectarines with the ice cream went very, very well.
Oh, the food.
And then nobody ever complained, and we ate together, and that was the best part about it.
Where he sat down with all the scenes and showed us scenes from movies. Each scene in Rabbits and Wolves had 2 or 3 collected scenes from other movies that he's like, okay, I want to look like that, I want to look like that, and I want to look like that.
The obvious, the primary, the reason for life and for doing it, and the greatest of all time is Hitchcock, and that's what this whole thing is, a huge bowing and scraping at the altar of Alfred.
Like Hitchcock would storyboard his entire film start to finish and know what the shots are going to be before he even goes out there with the camera to do it. And I think to a certain extent, John did the same thing, at least for some of your more key sequences, because I remember him showing me his little sketches.
You're trying to create a work of art that someone sees on the other side and understands and buys into. I mean, the idea is, somebody's buying into the idea. I don't mean with money, but just as a viewer, you either walk away saying, wow, that moved me, that made me think a different way than I normally think, whatever it might be. And that process, this movie did for me. And I would have never assumed that my first feature would do that.
I think it's up to us as artists to portray the human condition in a way that actually makes an impact toward change.
Art allows people to see what's in front of them. If they're offended, good. Being offended forces you to confront your values.
I think it will definitely upset people. The end of the film is harsh, even for me to watch, and I was there. Harsh for me because it's very, it doesn't stop. And you really are forced to, as an audience member, I think when I've seen dailies and stuff, to kind of, like, you rarely, when you watch a movie and you hear people scream at the screen, and I always think that's silly, and you're like, what are you going to, you're yelling at a screen, But like I felt that you're like, oh stop! Like I wanted to, like the characters, like I wanted them to stop what they were doing, and you know, then you sort of feel that feeling of like, but I can't control it. It's going on and on. So I think it will totally upset people. It's disturbing, but you know, I think it will make an impact, which is what movies are trying to do, right? We're trying to make an impression and tell a story that you won't forget.
Would I do it again?
Yeah.
Oh hell yeah! I would do that in an instant.
Absolutely, I would absolutely do it again. In fact, I'm counting the days here.
Yeah, I would definitely like to do more stuff. I want more than one scene.
I would definitely, completely and totally do it all over again.
Because every day we shot, we got better. Every day we shot, we got tighter. And every day we had more friggin' fun. And that typically never happens. Except when it's a good production environment. Farrelly Brothers have it. Clint Eastwood has it. I think we have it.
If this man doesn't make movies, then what's his point?
I just want to make good movies. And tell whatever the hell kind of story I want to tell. And keep it as free as possible.